Bonjour, bonjour. Tête, l'épaule, genou et pied, genou et pied. I am an ape. I evolved from a fish. Poisson. We are all poisson. This is going to be a rough one for you guys. You guys have to deal with my French accent. By the way, when we watch this little talk with JF Gariepy, I'm going to figure out whether or not it's a real accent or not. I've got some intel that says otherwise, that it's a fake accent. That there is no accent like that except for Pepe Le Pew and some other cartoons. Obviously, it's sus off the bat, JF Gariepy. For those of you who don't know, he's an evolutionary proponent. He wrote a book. And he also is a part of a very bizarre set of circumstances surrounding his wife, who I don't even know if there's a follow-up with that. But that was a whole strange thing. I remember Andrew invited him on to kind of go over some things, gave him the benefit of the doubt. But everything is still pretty sketchy. I mean, we can't make any definitive conclusions, but what we do know is about the day or the day after the reported missing wife, he did some very thorough cleaning, and he patched up a wall. You know, who knows? She might be in the wall. That's all I'm saying. She might be in the wall. But that's besides the point. I debated JF Gariepy about 3 years ago with Posh Redneck on evolution. We talked a lot about the heart valves, and we talked a lot about that was the first introduction to evolution, debating evolution from a perspective of like real granularity, really getting in there with the details. And both JF Gariepy and his debate partner, Richard Spencer, they really couldn't tell us how any of this occurs. He's also, if you see by my thumbnail, known for a debate with Mr. J. Dyer, who I see in the chat here. He claimed he is a truth-seeking machine, that we are all deterministic machines. And we go, how do you know what you're saying is true if you're a deterministic machine? He said, well, I am a truth-seeking machine. Oh, how did you know you're a truth-seeking machine? Because I am a truth-seeking machine. Okay, that's cool logic, bruh. Anyway, Gnostic Informant, who also recently debated Jay and got completely annihilated on multiple levels, he is also an Evo-tard. And he invited Mr. Gariepy onto his stream to talk about his book, talk about, artificial technology, artificial intelligence. So we're just going to go in totally, we don't know what's going to happen here. I didn't watch any of it, so you guys get a nice raw reaction from me. Appreciate everyone who liked the noodle kind of out of the woodwork video there. We made those noodles over at Grandma's house, and so Meg Bob was in demand. She was like, that's the funniest clip of you making a noodle ever. And I was like, you haven't seen many noodle making videos, have you, of me? So, considering the size of my channel, it was like, it's like 10,000 views in a day, which is crazy for me. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. Let's get into this. Let's get into the meat of it, shall we? All right. So what do we got here? Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Leave a message at the beat. This is JF Gariepy on Mr. Gnostic. He's not a Gnostic, by the way. Just so you guys know. He's not a Gnostic. Everyone, he kind of went. He shouldn't have chose that name. Honestly, he probably sees it as a mistake now. Anyway, we're gonna take a look-see here. Okay. Thank you, Zorch. Thank you, everyone. French Canadians try so hard to be French, they invent French words that don't exist, like chien chaud for hot dog. That's funny. That is an invention, isn't it? JB slapping a noodle. Yeah, I started my own website. It's all noodle slapping. All right, let's go. Let's do this.
Special guest who's kind of a controversial figure, but before I bring him up, one of the topics I get into this channel all the time is rationality and evolution, theistic evolution, if those things are compatible, atheism, rationalism versus, you know, young earth creationism stuff. It's been going back deep in my channel. And I never actually brought on, I talked to Lawrence Krauss years ago. I had him on. We talked about this. We had a similar discussion about what we have today. Very, very fascinating discussion. It was one of my first big videos, actually. I think like 2021. And I haven't really brought on a lot of experts who actually like study evolutionary biology or even like worked in academia in related fields and studied actual like apes and stuff like that. So today I actually
studied apes. I haven't had anyone who studied apes either.
You have someone who's perfect.
I haven't had anyone to study apes. I should have someone. I should have the coroner who, you know, examined George Floyd's body.
For this conversation, who I'm about to bring up right now, J.F. Gariepy.
Hello? Forgive the smell. As you see behind me, the wall that I made. There is no human body behind this wall. Oh, sorry.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. That was a nice intro with mathematics.
Yes, yeah, the golden ratio, man. It's all over the
Yes.
place. What do you think about that, by the way, real quick?
I love math. I do math every day. It's my main research subject as this.
I calculate with math how long it takes for a body to decompose under the circumstance and all sorts of different variables.
At this point, even if I'm an amateur mathematician, I do it with Grok, and I'm just fascinated by these things, spirals in particular.
Yeah. And are you an atheist? Do you mind me asking?
Yes, I'm an atheist.
That's right, I am a strict biological machine.
I am culturally...
I do math. I love math.
He also has a policy of immediate insemination, his words not mine, for any woman who will allow. To promote his genes, of course.
That's right.
Not kidding.
No, I've heard him say that for sure. Anyone who is open to it, even though if I do not know if it is actually a biological female, I figured might as well. The odds.
Christian, and I am a descendant of pure Christian lines of descent, but I just don't believe that there is a God. But the Bible is still a good moral guide.
Sure. Yeah, I feel a lot of people think that, or feel that way, like especially in the West. I would argue, I would say the morals that you find in that Bible actually predate Judeo-Christianity and go back to the ancient Athenians. But that's a whole other topic. We're gonna have that. I want to talk about revolution. So, your book, The Revolutionary Phenotype. I have a link in the description. If anyone can go check it out. I also have a link to your. Let me just share this out real quick. Your YouTube channel, which is JFG Tonight. So everyone can check the link. If I'm not mistaken, you actually studied apes directly. Is that what you're?
I studied ape
In my
directly.
postdoctoral research, I've been interested in the brains of monkeys and specifically how they develop strategies, social strategies, because you find yourself with a very simple animal world, you know, and even our theories of animal behavior are pretty limited. Reward, you do something that's rewarding, you do it again. That's basically behaviorism in a nutshell. But certainly something happened, and it didn't just happen in humans. It happened way before. Mammals, reptiles, birds, fish have goals. They have projects. They have steps that they must reach to accomplish these goals. This is not a simple reward system. And so what I sought to do in my postdoc at Duke University was to record neurons in the brains of monkeys as they were playing soccer matches. Because soccer is this interesting game in which you have to fool an opponent. You have to make the goalkeeper believe that you're going to go left, and you have to kick right. In my early research in this field, even if I eventually left academia because I got tired, I already identified very clearly that the monkeys know what they're doing. They fake left, but they know they're going to go right, or they fake right, but they know they're going to go left. So they have a certain conception of what they have to fool, what they have to do to unlock the path to a successful goal. And that involves.
See, his philosophy is already broken here, just so you guys know. The reason it's broken is that he's also a determinist. So he has this incompatibility where he talks about goals and talks about goals of organisms and goals of humans and goals of collective of humans. And there's no such thing as a goal under a deterministic view. Now, you're not going to get this kind of pushback from Neil, you know. We love Neil, but he's a meathead.
The prefrontal cortex, knowledge, theory of mind, knowing that you have an opponent, or at least knowing that you're faced with something complex enough that you have to fool it to pass it.
So you're saying like the Machiavellian attitude is sort of deep within us in our monkey brains.
Absolutely, and it has to be. And it goes back. I love your name, the Gnostic Informant, because you seem to be about epistemology and knowledge.
Yes,
and
figured it out. You figured it out before anyone else did.
I'm all about this, and you have to ask yourself, what is the definition of knowledge? What is even a theory, and what is a proper life form? Because there is a deep tie between the process of learning and the process of evolving. So you have these animals, they are making babies. Some of them go in one direction, some of them go in another genetically. Now this creates forms that are subject to selection. Selection makes this animal successful, this one not. So you have animals that are learning. They are not learning in the psychological way that we mean it when we say learn, but the system is learning. The system is learning, how do I exploit this environment to make more monkeys or to make more birds? So that's the deep link, I believe, and we're discovering a lot as we build these AIs, because we're reinventing learning and evolution within the chip. We are reinventing it in electronic signals that effectively do the exact same thing. Because what is an AI? Well, it's a system that is given a target.
What's kind of also interesting here is there really is no artificial intelligence. There's augmented intelligence. There's a mimic of the processes of what you call intelligence. The ability to process information and give back some sort of schema or proposition or evaluation that's mirroring what we human beings sort of code it to do. But he's kind of like a hype man. It doesn't AI. It doesn't even exist. They can't even really define intelligence, let alone create intelligence. All they do is create systems that execute commands with varying degrees of complexity.
Yes. And then it's given trillions of iteration through, all right, this knowledge, this piece of knowledge, it's being swamped with knowledge and things that it is not even told, believe this, but it's told, try to learn something from this. Try to survive in a loop where you're going to come back to me and tell me what I want to hear. Now, that is the evolutionary process that is being already embedded in a chip, which when I wrote my book, the AI as we know them today didn't exist. 2018, the revolutionary phenotype. But we're seeing it. We are creating a learning.
AI is marketing. Yeah, it's Vagine, right, Vagine? I mean, we haven't heard from Vagine about any of this. She's getting awfully awkward.
Process, and we are dumping human culture into hardware, and we're making the hardware.
Yeah, it's such a heavy accent. I think remember what's her name? Holmes? Elizabeth Holmes, is that her name? She did the fake lowered voice to fit in with the boys, and she schemed everyone out of money. I mean, really listen to the accent. I mean, who has that thick of an accent?
We're better at creating human culture, understanding it, and all of this through this learning process, because I presented the natural selection process. That's how animals get better. That's how you get birds from bacteria.
That's how you get birds from bacteria? Let me guess. Neil's gonna go, how do you get a bird from a bacteria? I would love to debate him one-on-one again with evolution. That would be epic. Birds from bacteria. I'm sorry. Bacteria stays bacteria. There is no evidence that birds come from bacteria or bacteria eventually makes its way to become a bird. What are you talking about, dude? So what's so annoying about these types? Like, Neil doesn't... He's so rigorous in asking questions to Christians, but this guy goes, that's how we get the magic time where bacteria becomes a tweet bird. Oh, really? How did that happen? Read my book.
But how do you get learning entities? How do you form academics or biologists or mathematicians? Well, it's the same process. It's an evolutionary process of selection where someone integrates some thoughts in his mind, some empirical observations. He processes them, and then he outputs, well, now I believe this or that. And he gets punished. So if you evolve in academia, you say something stupid or something unprovable, you're going to get...
It won't start with a B. You gotta start with a B.
Finished. You're not going to get a doctorate. So same learning process, right. But instead of happening across generation, it's happening within a generation. Now, with computers, we have achieved the capacity to generate trillions of generations in seconds, because Elon Musk has his 100,000 GPUs. He just runs the whole dump of human...
I can't believe this is on 1.25.
...culture in this, and you find yourself with robots eventually. And this is what I warn about in my book. Robots are about to take it.
Robots? That sounds like a really cool graphic novel of it's rabbits, but they're robots. You just conjoin the name. Rabbits?
A biological form. And that has severe consequences for humanity. And it's so much worse than people think. People think we're going to lose our jobs. No, we are questioning the supremacy of DNA-based life on Earth. That is the message of my book.
Can you take us through that, how you got to that conclusion?
Rabbi Rabbits?
Absolutely. So I didn't even start my book around AI. That wasn't my goal at all. But eventually I realized the danger. So my book is first and foremost a theory of how replicators emerge and how knowledge accumulation has switches and stages in the evolution of a life form and a civilization. So 4 billion years ago.
Oh, here we go. Here we go, everybody.
There was the descendants of DNA-based life, but they were not genetic descendants. They were RNA molecules. So I start with this RNA molecule, and I'm like, how did we get to the current stage? Because when you look at life forms these days, everything alive on Earth except RNA viruses, let's leave that exception aside, but everything that we know of that's alive is DNA genome. They give DNA to their children, and then DNA produces RNA, RNA produces proteins, and then proteins are the little chemical slaves that make your arms, make your brain.
No. Listen, buddy. Dude, come on. Are you serious, Neil? Look at Neil. Look at him. Neil. Look, dude, you're making the right face, but you're thinking the wrong thing. I'm sorry, Jarek. I'm sorry. Listen, Evo Tards, if you got them in the chat. You don't just get RNA to DNA to proteins and then they make arms. Wake up, Neil. Arms. An arm is something that's, from everything we know, an arm, or what you even call an arm, or a leg, or an arm-like leg, or whatever it is, all of those things are habitually and always informed by the parent, what the thing already has. He just tells this story, and Neil's just like, tell me about Santa Claus next.
And then the proteins are like little machines that make arms.
Really? Huh. Like they just skip a whole step. They just keep avoiding the problem that an arm is only an arm universally when we talk about an arm, or a foot, unless it's Allah's foot. It's always habitually tied to and informed by the previous organism and what they are, the nature of what they are. They have arms. That's the nature of the thing.
And make everything possible. So most of the work is dumped from, the information is dumped from DNA into RNA toward proteins. And there was not a biological theory that explained mechanistically, why do we get there? How do you even build a life form with just evolution that adds genetic layers on top of the former ones? So my book starts with this question. Why is it that there was a point in the past where there was no DNA? And why is it that DNA showed up? And by definition, this question cannot be answered by the selfish gene type of Richard Dawkins' theory of evolution. By definition, you cannot have something that's selfish like DNA is today if you start from scratch. In other words, there has to be a point in the past at which DNA wasn't subject to evolution, wasn't selfish, wasn't getting selected. And I reconstructed the scenario to understand what happens in the beginning of a life form like this. And I found the theory of phenotypic revolutions. So the theory of phenotypic revolution basically says life forms that exist at some point, they eventually start dealing with libraries. They start dealing with computer-like entities, if you will.
Yeah. Showed up is I don't know if you know this, Odie, but showed up is a biological term in the studies and in the environment of studying biology. You know, this is a well-established process. Showed up, arise, emerged.
It wasn't a computer 4 billion years ago, but you could think of DNA as some kind of hard drive that became available at some point to a life.
Available. 5 minutes left to the first goal, y'all. Let's kick off the day with a success. Five minutes.
That wasn't DNA based.
Emergent.
And think of that life form as doing transactions with this hard drive. So as I presented in my book, there's many scenarios why it would help. But basically, DNA was a good storage device. And the RNA life form found itself with the reality that it was a better genetic storage device than its own genes. So you are just a small RNA virus, but you have this other entity that shows up around you. And that entity is better at making your babies than you can.
So you're talking about DNA?
What?
You're talking about DNA?
Yes. So imagine you're an RNA virus in a world where you've always been living as an RNA virus. And
imagine a world where you just have eternal RNA virus and that's all you have. Where you just grant yourself it. You just grant yourself RNA virus. It already existed. See, this is what I'm saying, like, we was USB sticks. There's no reason they have to craft an abiogenesis narrative, even. They could, now it's a broken position, but they could just say life as it is it's always been the case. Eternality. They're just arbitrary with what they call eternal. They're like, well, it always existed. And you're like, which? And they're like, well, matter or something. The laws of nature, the laws of physics, okay? And then you're like, what about this thing, biology? Well, it always existed. Why don't you just say everything always existed? It's not even a big jump.
There's no DNA organisms around. So you're just replicating RNA. It's a small chain molecule making RNA babies. Now that works, maybe the lifetime of...
Did they ever find the derpy woman? I don't think so. I didn't see anything about it. I mean, she's probably in multiple locations. Is that too dark?
A RNA molecule in that wild environment, maybe about a few months where it can survive. And in fact, maybe within 30 minutes to an hour, it probably started having mutations. So a very unstable life form where you can't even guarantee that your babies are yours because there's so much mutations. Down the line, it's like it roughly produces babies that are roughly like you, but you're faced with this massive problem. Your molecule is unstable. You can't build big genomes, and you're developing all of these innovations. All of this learning is happening to the RNA molecule. but it's learning and it's incapable of storing it properly. And suddenly, one RNA molecule had a genius idea, but the idea was so genius that it killed everything around it.
I'm sorry, a molecule had an idea? Hey, Neil, do you have any capacity to listen to what's being said? Do you have any reasonable faculty going on? Look at Neil. Wait. What? A molecule had an idea? Wait a second. This guy is definitely smarter than me, so I'm going to just have to kind of play along with this. Wait a second. A molecule had an idea? Wait a second. Not even a... Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean by a molecule had an idea? I wonder if I can get him to sign my book that I bought of his book. I wonder if he's going to write an inscription for me. Man, that's crazy. A molecule had an idea. That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I'm going to store my genetic information in a DNA strand.
Oh, Max.
I'm going to put it aside. It's going to be my hard drive backup, my little USB stick. And instead of making my own babies, I'm going to trust the hard drive, the DNA-based storage media, and I'm going to trust that DNA to make my babies instead of me. In other
Yeah, I think I get it. I think, maybe this is a bad idea. Wait, the DNA is going to make the babies for him. Wait a second. What is this puzzle?
My wife is actually in my hard drive. What I did is I did this process and I took her DNA and I digitized it and replicated it into a hard drive. And I looked at her and I said, "You are no longer needed. So you will now be in my crawl space. Por s'il vous plaît."
In other words, I will give up my responsibility to keep parenting my own DNA strands. I'm going to dedicate it to a machine that is 1,000,000 times more efficient than me. And DNA had all of these advantages. It could be 100,000 times longer. It could record and keep no mutation over 5 years, whereas the RNA would mutate within 30 minutes. So you had a spread of time, efficiency, and the size of the library that DNA came with was
He's literally
enormous.
having a...
It was orders of
He's having
magnitude
a
above what
meltdown.
RNA was able to do.
He's having a
And
meltdown.
that life form that created DNA eventually lost control of it. And this is the theory of phenotypic revolution. It's when do you lose control to the machines you've created? When is it that a cancerous cell born inside of you starts building a civilization within your dead body and rises from it and becomes 10,000 times bigger than you? It's the question of when is it that a piece of you becomes so much better than you that it starts farming you and
Do you sell lunch boxes?
raping your babies for eternity until they build something so much bigger than you that they end up calling you a virus? That is the question I've asked for 4 billion years ago, and that is
the question you asked for 4 billion years ago. Dude, this is just, it's so nonsensical. It really shows that we're in like the peak. I shouldn't even say that. The peak. We're at a peak of like just like this fantasy world, like pure fantasy world. It's like anything but God, but this fantasy world where you think anything he's saying is real. There's any reality to what he's saying. And these people are just like, yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. Making fun of an accent is not an argument. Nobody said that, dipshit.
This is the question I asked about what we're doing right now. When is it that a natural DNA-based human being will start being called a virus by AI?
Oh, we're going to appeal to AI. What is this? Okay.
When is it when AI, which we program to categorize things for us and conceptualize things for us, When will the AI tell us what to do?
What does this have to do with the truth, JF? When will the AI categorize as a parasite? When will the AI categorize as a biological machine? Like, what does it matter? What does it matter? What does it have to do with anything?
It's not so far from here.
So this happened 4 billion years ago. In what kind of life forms are we talking about here?
Oh, I'm sorry, Neil. I thought you were the person interested in epistemology. Notice how Neil doesn't go, how do you know that happened 4 billion years ago? Notice how Neil, in all of his videos, well, how do you know the resurrection happened? How do you know that? I mean, this is like 2,000 plus years ago. What are we talking about here? I mean, how do you know something like that? I mean, don't you want to come to some justified true belief about such a thing? And then this guy comes in and goes,
4 billion years ago, this happened.
And Neil's all, so that happened. Okay, 4,000 million years ago that happened. All right, cool. Next page. I can't wait to. You know what it's like? You ever watch A Princess Bride? Fred Savage is a kid, and Columbo is reading what is his name? Faulkner? I forgot his name. Reading him a book. He's like, please, next page, please.
We are talking about the life forms that have survived into RNA viruses. So
Just little microscopic.
Little microscopic. They were strands. The starting life form I start with generally is probably a 72 to 100 nucleotide RNA at the RNA level, and probably an equivalent number of amino acids in the protein domain. But we're
you're just making it up. You have no access to what you're saying at all.
talking about a little strand of 70 letters. So nothing like our
Peter Falk, shout out
6
to
billion
Peter Falk.
letters DNA genome, because precisely they were unstable and they were short. So this couldn't build a body. This couldn't build intelligence. But it was enough. This little strand was in an environment that it was enough to make copies. It was a replicator. So a replicator is simply something that if you put it in some environment, it will make copies of itself that are more like itself than the neighbor, than, say, the alternative random strand of molecules. So what?
It's truly amazing. Check Steam, laugh for a minute, send super chat. Now back to work. Have a good day. Thank you.
These little beings, these life forms had 4 billion years ago, but they were differentiated from the chemistry around them by just one criteria.
So if that didn't give me a, that would probably be copyright, but that's hilarious. That would be great.
They were making babies that were more similar than the random chains of molecule built that way. And just because of this, you start having selection. And just because of this, they can slowly head toward let's build, and they don't even think about it. They don't have the brains to want it, but they end up accidentally building a library.
You accidentally create a meaningful library of, by the way, immaterial information that informs behavior instructions. Accidentally. At least he said accidentally.
Building a hard drive. Building another.
And we know that if we look at how hard drives are created today, we know that they are built accidentally.
Another molecule that's better than them, and they get totally subsumed by it.
Neil, Neil's like, accidental building of meaningful hard drives of information that play meaningful roles in informing tasks in biology. Very specific tasks. Cool. No, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
The events that have happened for
totally.
billion
Totally.
years ago, there was not a single time since 4 billion years that it has repeated. Life is so stable on their DNA. There is not a time at which life even came close to redo this. But if we are to redo this, it's going to be humans that will redo it. And it's going to be because of the greed in searching for better and better genetic modifications. And the warning I say in my book is, do not let an AI ever decide the genes of your babies, even if it counsels you, even if it's your own good, even if it's to remove Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease from your children. Do not let your genetic passation to the next generation be interfered with by an external agent. This is the lesson we've learned, or at least this is the lesson that the RNA viruses can learn from what.
All of reproduction requires as a precondition that your genetic information, the way it's passed down, is dependent on something external to you. It's called your wife or your husband. What are you even talking about? He's just making claims. What do you mean? You can't reproduce, dude. You can't. How are you going to reproduce?
That happened 4 billion years ago.
So you think manipulating eugenics, like genetics with AI or some sort of system like CRISPR would actually cause another evolutionary step like the RNA DNA sequence?
Absolutely. And I described the whole thing in my book. It happens maybe over 10,000 years or maybe over.
Yeah, he's nowhere based in reality, this guy. And because he has a French accent and wrote a book on evolution, Neil, not pushing back at all, no hard questions, Neil. Total L, by the way. Do you think you owe this guy something, Neil? These guys just lap up everything. Oh, yeah, no, I read your book. It was amazing. I slept with your book. Sleep with it on my chest every night. I'm just so glad you jumped on. I have your book.
For 1 million years if it happens slowly. But the end result is this. It's the enslavement of all humans.
So it's like Pandora's box. Once you open it up, it's not going to be closed.
It's unstoppable.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. The people gaslighting us about Depop plans, they're like, yeah, no, totally, eugenesis.
Because imagine the first step that we take in this direction is, okay, Grok
You should try to debate him. I have debated him.
is already capable, basically, of telling you you would want probably those genes, but not those genes. So Grok is already there. We're only missing the step where someone decides to listen to Grok. Now, what happens to that person? Well, the same thing that happened to these 2 Chinese daughters, that we already have Dr. He in China, who got punished for it, went to jail, but without asking for any permission, he decided to modify 2 girls in China, modify them genetically before their birth. What he introduced in those girls was a gene of resistance against HIV. Because, of course, he was inspired by noble goals. Well, they have a father that happened to have HIV. He wanted their father to be able to hug them without having the fear that they would get HIV.
Hug them? Dude, how delusional are you? So your example is a delusional person who thinks, what? What? Excuse me?
He gave them
What is this, in 1980?
a gene that is known to be relatively protective of HIV. You are less likely to get HIV.
You know how hard it is? Let's just say everything Fauci and everyone says about that is true. Do you know how hard, like, granting everything they say about that, first of all, is true? Like, what?
If you have this gene. Now, first, this gives a protection. So it gives better health.
What is wrong with this guy? What is going on?
Potentially, these girls, when they grow into adults, they can have more sexual relationships. They can live longer, even if they are exposed to HIV.
Okay, so the story is a father altered his daughters so that they could have more sexual relationships.
It is truly inspiring story about this man who made it possible before his daughter's birth to make sure they have the capacity to be absolute whores.
So you just gave an evolutionary advantage. And you gave an...
Look at Neil just nodding. Yeah, no, advantage, yes. More sexual partners, less disease, advantage. Yes. No, that's good. Yes. I'm learning. I am learning.
evolutionary advantage to a bunch of people who are carrying genes that make them more likely.
See, they don't even know. Like, the thing is, in 1,000 years, based on their own modeling, it could be it could be an advantage to be exposed to diseases with enough time. It could be. They just arbitrarily say what's an advantage, what's not, and they only use their own lifespan, right, as a delineation. Like, oh, I get to have sex with more people without worrying about becoming Magic Johnson and Freddie Mercury, and so this is an advantage. How is that an advantage? By what standard is that an advantage?
To like genetic modifications. In other words, you took the whole of humanity and you said, okay, I'm not giving you an advantage. And then you took a bunch of technophile, technology-loving,
That's a really hilarious. I hope that's facetious, because that's hilarious.
daring people who are willing to be the first to modify their children genetically. And you said, I'm giving you an advantage. You're HIV resistant now. Now imagine I'm giving you another advantage. You don't have Parkinson's. Oh yeah, and now you're living 200 years old. Oh yeah, and now you can still reproduce up to 140 years old. Now, the more advantage we stack, the more we create a genocidal force. That is, eventually the people who get the genetic modifications, they outcompete all of the naturals. So in my book, I use the term naturals. So those people who refuse genetic modifications. Now, eventually, these people,
He's literally writing sci-fi. He wrote a sci-fi book, and Neil thinks it's a documentary, like Adam Green thinks the evolution things are documentaries. You literally wrote sci-fi, dude.
I call them the naturals. There is a world where they are the naturals. Isn't that so creative? In my book,
they get outcompeted evolutionarily, no matter what's the gain. Maybe you're more beautiful, maybe you're more intelligent. It really doesn't matter. Any advantage, any gain on the dating market, any increased value or increased reproductive career will favor the people who take that road as opposed to the naturals. So that's where the slippery slope is. Everything in evolution is a slippery slope. Just think about people who refused fire. Well, they're all dead. Everyone cooks today. So we don't have humans that are out there and who are ideologically resistant to fire. Will never cook their food. Think about the people who refused money. They're all dead. Everyone uses money. So at every stage of evolution of humanity, if you allow
Holy crap, dude.
an advantage to a subgroup, eventually, if that advantage is genuine, it will replace the entire rest of the group. And that's the first step into the phenotypic revolution. It gets much darker.
What is the what?
Who refused fire? No fire. No, I will not. I am freezing. That feels warm. I will not. No.
What would the result end up being as far as humans, and what would the next step be at the end game of all this?
So there's one principle.
the end game is I am the only DNA sequence that exists. Just me.
That I've discovered as I was studying these questions, and I was looking at a couple of phenomena that to me were not properly explained by biology before I wrote my book. So there's the phenomenon of queen bees and sterile workers. Of course, there were good explanations for this in The Selfish Gene of Richard Dawkins, but I was finding that the
Gariepy without an accent, yeah, totally out of his mind. Yep.
But at the beginning of these events, how do you get from individual bees, let's say the ancestors of bees, that weren't working in colonies, that didn't have queens? How do you get from these non-central individual insects running around, flying around, all of them interested in their own survival? Why would you have a part of the set of the population that eventually starts being slave to the queen?
You see what I'm saying? They have to imagine, like I talked about this the other day, I think, was it yesterday? About the nature, the denial of the nature of things. And so you say, well, there was a time where bees were bees, but everything we know about bees, they weren't those things. They were some other kind of thing. Do we even call those a bee? Right? They have to imagine in their head, and it's pure imagination. They have to imagine like some previous ancestor of bees that weren't actually bees. Or they were bees, but they didn't behave like bees. And they were purely individualistic. Even though to say you're a bee is to say you're a part of a collective, that you come from a previous set of bees. And this is where their mind goes. And it's all nominalism. It really is it's a feature of the same philosophy that's permeating through all of modern society now and philosophies. It's this idea that these things are always in flux and they're always on their way out from being themselves to something else. And their behavior is always, from a Christian perspective, our behaviors, the behavior of all things, is proper to the nature of the thing, of what it is. And that thing is universal, such that we can say their behavior is proper to the nature. The behavior of a lion is proper to the nature of lions. The behavior of bees is proper to the nature of bees. Even the particular kind of bee that it is, as a subcategory of the nature of a bee. But evolution, through all this gibberish, you hear it. You hear the denial of these universals because they're in flux. So then you have to do a proto-bee, and you have to imagine it. You can't know it, you imagine it. And then you sell the imagined proto-bee to Neil, and look at him. Neil is stunned. He's stunned.
I mean, that has never made sense to me. The explanation to it is eventually your children can be your slaves.
Bro. You heard it. You heard it here.
Slave to the queen. That has never made sense to me. The explanation to it is eventually your children can be your slaves. And that's an explanation that explains across...
Look at Neil checking his chat. What do I do now? What do I do now? Panic, 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 panic. Panic.
Many categories of life. It explains the bee colonies and ant colonies. So imagine you have children.
Neil's thinking about Christianity right now. He's like, should I go to Pascha? All right, maybe they have a point. Child slaves.
Well, eventually, with any luck, if you believe in that sort of stuff, you get to enslave the children. And that was why I was invited to Epstein Island in an email.
What's the function of these children to you? Well, your function is that one day they will replace you, they will make their own babies, and you're going to have grandchildren. So that is the normal sense of parental care in biology. That's why most life forms, they all want to survive and they all want to make their babies. And the function of these babies is to make more babies, to spread your genes. Now, in bee colonies, you have a weird situation that arises where, these babies would not be particularly efficient if they were to go out there and just try. They would basically become my competitor. What I can do as a queen, as a...
Yeah, but the thing is, doesn't make sense logically already. He just said that the purpose of your children is to replace you. That makes them a type of competitor, too. So he's just... everything's arbitrary from this guy. It's always the same crap from these people. They just talk. They just write down their ideas, free form, like they're doing a freestyle. They're doing modern dance. They don't care what they're saying.
A birthing queen. I can enslave these babies, give them hormonal signals and various tricks, genetic tricks that I induce into them so that they become my slave. All I have to do in exchange is I have to produce 10,000 more queens. I have to specialize. I have to divide my attention between I'm going to produce the queens and I'm going to produce the sterile worker. And I may need 10,000 sterile workers.
Hey, why don't you try doing that just in the reality we have right now? See how that goes for you, bucko. It's amazing. It's in their head. They can do this, right? Oh, I will do that. Dude, you can't do anything. You're a weak little Frenchman. Try to make anything happen in the world, JF, first. Why don't you try that first?
No. I imagine in my head the possibility of making 10,000 slave babies. I can't stop thinking about it.
But as long as these 10,000 sterile workers are helping me make more queens, I get better. I'm more productive than if I was to compete with my own children and my own grandchildren. So when the environment is such that it makes your grandchildren...
His ex-wife still missing? Yeah, she's in the wall.
Potentially competitive, and you need a big jump. That's what the queens needed. They needed a base that amasses the most amount of resources, and they...
Look at Neil, dude. Dude. Neil. Dude, he's literally side-eyeing him. He's side-eyeing him.
They needed an entire society built around them so that they can eject baby queens that would fly away and go very far where they would not compete with the local colony to reseed new colonies. Now, that's how you get enslavement. That's how you get from all of my babies are free and my goal is for them to be successful to all of my babies are my slaves. And they're only...
Neil, dude. This is hilarious. Oh my gosh, man. Okay, when babies, maybe slaves or baby slaves.
Function is to serve me. And when you switch into the queen domain of biology, the same format, the same phenomenon explains why we have bodies. So we were single cells at some point. Why is it?
We were, see what I'm saying? How insane these people are? We, metaphysics, we were not we. We were not we.
We were not we. A equals not A.
We were single cell. No, that's not a we anymore. What are you talking about? We were single cell.
That we are trillions of a big pack of cells that will never reproduce. So the cells in my finger, my brain, my neck, my chest, none of them will reproduce. The only ones that will reproduce are those in my testicles. Or if...
Gotta get a zoom in on that. JF's testicles. Okay, check. JF's testicles, got that on the bingo card.
If you're a woman, in your ovaries.
Ovaries.
Why is it that all of the cells of our bodies have abandoned their own interest? Why don't they fly away and try to start their own colony or their own human body? Well, that is the exact mechanism that happened with the queen colony. So the bees, it's because at some point you need your babies around as shells and as protectors more than you need them out there trying to
What is even being? We don't know. We don't know. Neil doesn't know. We don't know.
To have success in the wild world. So you have here a mechanism for the centralization of genetic interest and for the division between a slave class and a reproductive class. Same thing is happening, by the way, with our cows. We choose one Starbucks, 30 Starbucks are produced.
Thank you so much, Chase. $5. Paying your Jortlandian tax for the week. Yes, please pay your taxes, y'all. We're at 3 of 10 of the second goal here. Happy St. Patty's Day to you as well. Yes.
Producing the sperm for the entirety of cows on the planet. Literally, they're being masturbated all day long, and they will have tens of thousands of babies each. Because the selection of the shape of the fodder in the cow is highly determinant on how much meat the cow is going to produce. And so we have all of these female cows that they are the lines. Well, we have first a section of the male cows that will never reproduce. They will never get selected to be Starbucks. So they are sterile workers effectively. They haven't evolved into sterile workers yet, but they would. If we do this for 1 million years, they would be more enslaved. They would be specialized genetically. Now, this is what we're about to do to ourselves with AI. The very same thing we did to cows, the very same thing that the queen bee did to her sterile worker, AI is about to do it to us. And this is where it becomes alarming. Because once you start trusting AI to determine your genes, you start having a central entity. It's gonna look more and more like the queen bee. It starts having a central entity that makes your babies. And you are not the father of your babies anymore. You are trusting the central entity to, in fact, replace your genes. So you've opened up a line of immigration.
Dude, it's insane. This person is just like, he's diddling his own brain. He worships his own mind and his own thoughts.
Into your
It's getting crazier somehow, yeah.
own genome. You've decided, all right, this piece of me is not even worth projecting to the next generation. The piece of me that would make my children have.
Jim Bob will be all over your ass like Columbo if you spout BS.
But our babies will be our slaves. Yeah, the end goal is that we enslave our babies, but also we can't let the AI dictate what our babies are. I don't understand. Well, honestly, this guy's forget what he's saying and trying to like cut through and have him justify anything he's saying, but just like the ethical sentiment that's undergirding all of this isn't pressed on at all. Like, why do we care, bro? It gets crazier? No.
Parkinson's, not so good. The piece of me that makes my children die at 60 years old instead of 200, not so good. Eventually, you strip away your genome. Your genome is subject to competitive replacement by whatever the AI can generate that's better. Now, this involves a form of colonialism that starts applying to your genome. The central
Enslaved by bees?
entity has its own interest, inevitably. Everything has its own interest. In biology, even the little strand of 70
Try the jerk chicken, man. Try the jerk chicken, man.
molecule that's just dancing like this in the water, even that little strand has its own interest. And as a proof, we come from it.
What? That doesn't follow. That doesn't follow, dude. You're such a gibberator, dude. The little strand has interests? I don't know. Interests require thoughts about the past, conception about the future, conception about the present, an evaluation of all three in your head, intent, direction, action on thought. Not a single pushback, Neil. Neil, let me just give you some unsolicited advice. If you said, how can a strand have an interest? I'm confused. How does a strand have an interest? Maybe your own audience would respect you a little bit more. It's like you're sitting on his lap, dude. It's like you thought you went to the mall to sit on Santa's lap and he's talking your ear off and he's like, I don't want to upset Santa. I think babies are fairly inefficient when it comes to forced labor. Finally get the first X-Files movie. Dude, this is like... Now, some other people might say, no, just let him cook, let him talk. It'll all be clipped. Neil's just letting him say his things, right? I just don't buy that. Like, I think you should push back on this stuff. It makes it interesting for your audience. Yang Biang. Seriously. Thank you,
so
Josiah.
it made babies, and it was so successful that it led to us 4 billion years down the line. So when we start we have a central entity that has its own interest. That's a queen bee. We are not controlling our genes anymore. We are not giving birth to our babies. In fact, we may just be a host. We become a biological shell that
Neil, dude.
that's just giving birth to.
Look at Neil. This is so funny, dude. Neil's just twitching the whole time. He's like, what?
We have a central entity that has its own interest. That's a queen bee. We are not controlling our genes anymore. We are not giving birth to our babies. In fact, we may just be a host. We become a biological shell that's just giving birth to computer babies. That's what
Neil's all, yeah, I think I'm going to go to liturgy. gotta go to liturgy this weekend.
It's happening. And it just so happens that the computer babies, at first, they look very
gonna-
human. They may just
get outta
have
here.
2 or 3 letters of DNA mutated from your genome. But slowly now, you are no more in the chain from parent to children. You are in the chain, I trust the queen produces me, and whatever happens, happens. At first, it's good. You solve a couple of health problems. It becomes worse because
It's just amazing, the freaking the gish galloping. It's like, you know those videos where there's like a mishap with the sewer pipe and it's just flooding everywhere, and everyone's like, who's gonna fix this? And the workers are trying to like figure it. This is the visual I'm getting of this guy. Won't be strong like a baby.
4 billion years of slavery be reparations.
Yes, B reparations. Yeah. The B reparations. From this dude's view, how is environmental evolution any different from AI? Yeah, that's the thing is like if we evolved, he just contradicted himself. He said he would argue that fire is a technology the way we use it. You reject fire, you die. You reject money, you die. But we have to watch out for AI. All of that would be an evolutionary movement forward. That, by the way, there's no choice in the matter. This is what's so insane about J.F. Gariepy. If you knew his philosophy a little bit deeper, unlike Neil here, if you simply asked him, is all of this strictly determined? He would say, yeah. So then why are you arguing we should avoid or be concerned with AI and reproduction and all the crap you're talking about? If it's all determined and everything's just one giant, biological organism unfolding, doing what it does, it's purely nature. It's purely its nature dictating what unfolds, then what are you talking about, man? You couldn't even stop it if you wanted to. This level of psychotic would be terrifying if not for a great channel like this to filter through it. Yes, pay your taxes indeed. That's right. Wait, wouldn't this just be evolution? Yeah, it would be. He admitted already. Fire, money, that's evolution from his view. That's a feature produced by evolving or whatever. But now he's like, no. I'm pulling back the reins. He doesn't even have a good reason to pull back the reins.
Eventually there's competition between the queens. And in this competition, harshness of life and of reproduction makes it so that some of the queen recipes for human genes, some of the AIs, literally, you'll have, let's say, an AI in Iran, and you're going to have an AI in the US, and maybe you're going to have 15 different companies, each of them proposing different recipes for human genetics. And some of them are better. And some of them are better by your taste, but some of them are better objectively.
No. You don't have access to that, bro.
Some of them end up making humans that are more greedy into protecting their own interests. They're more proselytic in pushing the interest of their own genetic recipe. These more aggressive humans, as you start having colonial fights between cities of humans, I'm like this, I'm like that. Eventually, one of them outpopulates the other. And so you have these recipes that are starting to be optimized not for the good of human existence.
Oh, the good of human existence. Oh, no. Neil going to push back on his metaethics at all? You just had a big debate with Jay. This came up, right? Epistemology, metaethics.
Not because, we resolved this health problem and that. You start having humans modified to be better slaves, to be better, more aggressive sterile workers, to be more enslaved to the queen, to be more attached to their central
Neil's about to laugh, though, at least.
Group, which
at least there's something hopeful when you look at Neil, when you watch this, about Neil.
I call queens in
He's like...
my book. So
he's like, I'm really happy that this is just a jail visit.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
So the central groups, just like the queen becomes the center of all interest of the sterile worker, we are about to become entities that are only meant to maintain our AI and to prefer our AI against the AI of the other group. And eventually these AIs, the only way they can win is by making us more efficient, more self-sacrificial. At the end of it, you have basically soldier humans willing to shoot themselves in the head if they're not useful to their colony anymore.
Would you rather hear my accent or his?
Yours, I think. Which it's crazy how quickly I answered that. J.F. Gariepy is the type of guy whose head has always been the same size, even when he was just a kid. Look at how disturbed Neil is.
We will get to a point eventually where every human being will be a soldier willing to shoot themselves in the head.
And then you enslave your kids, biang biang slap slap.
They don't give a shit about surviving. They don't have testicles. They don't reproduce. They don't even have brains. They can't even think unless it's useful to the AI.
What? Look at Neil. Okay, there's a spark of life, Neil. Finally, something in your eye that says, I'm a human, he's not. I'm real, he's not. I'm sane, he's not. I'm glad I have Christian friends. He's crazy. Maybe he did kill his wife. I'm not sure. You know what I need? I need creepy music. I need to make some. Maybe Tony can help me. I need, like, because this is, like, sad. I need, like, haunting, holy crap, where are we music.
Whoa, man. I'll say, this is crazy. So do you think this will end up becoming more of like an arms race? Like China wants to make their population more superior to the American population? Or do you think this is going to be a global...
Psycho Killer. How does satire news exist when JF does it for free? It doesn't. Satire doesn't exist. We just report it. We just report reality.
Thing, and it'll be private families or whatever doing all this stuff. What do you think? How is it going to play out in the short run?
There's going to be a runaway effect like you described where everyone wants to be... Everyone says, I have no choice. I can't let the Chinese become so much better than me, so I have to do it myself. But the lesson of life is never do this. The lesson of the phenotypic revolution that happened 4 billion years ago is don't lose yourself in wanting to win.
Yeah.
And I would...
What? The hell?
Say that's a moral message that's very understandable. Like, if you want to win a hockey match or a basketball match, and you have certain morals, let's say you're a Christian basketball player, you wouldn't want to have to kill the other person to win the match. You wouldn't want to take action that is questionable.
Bro, if it was permitted, that's what a war is. Okay? If a war included basketball, for some reason, that's what a war would be. You would be killing the opposition to win because the stakes are so high. He's like, you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, in a basketball game, the stakes aren't high in that context. Of course you wouldn't, because that's not a part of basketball. What are you talking about, you lunatic? What kind of lunatic is this?
It's like if you're playing chess, you don't want to kill the person to win.
No, you didn't win the game. Killing the person doesn't mean you won the chess game. That's not how you determine winning a chess game. I don't even know. They count that as a draw? If someone did that at an actual, like, highfalutin chess match competition, if they just, like, someone pulled a gun, would that game be a draw? Clearly the person who dies doesn't win because the person cheated. Or is that their last win? Churchill proposed a similar idea, but in a way less crazy way. He was worried that with the advancement of technology, we'd become white ants. Well, yeah, George Bernard Shaw also. He didn't have this concept of advanced technology, but he essentially looked at everyone as like whether you're a good slave or not.
questioning your own identity in your victim.
Let's say it's a disqualification. Yeah, so that person would win. That's ironically. The person who's dead would get the W.
In other words, never forget to win as you. Don't win as something that you're not. Because winning as something that you're not is basically letting something else win. And this is the message that I write in my book, is we are doing an act of altruism toward a non-existent mechanical life form that we are about to give birth to. And we're already altruistic to it. We're already cuddling it. We're already making excuses for it. And it hasn't even begun.
Okay, so his whole extrapolation was like a fear tactic to be like, let's not go in this direction. This is the reality, is we're going to become worker ants. We're on the trend for becoming worker ants where we're just, we delete ourselves just like some of those wasps and ants do. They're just coded to die off. We shouldn't do this. He doesn't have a good reason, though. He doesn't have any good reason. By the way, you don't have a good reason to not alter your body to be better at sports, to defeat other people. You don't have any reason to do that. He doesn't have like a threshold at which altering your body is a no-no versus is totally fine to advance your effectiveness or your strength. Why not?
Is there any...
I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like you have to eat food to be stronger. Two boxers preparing for a fight, their training would include maybe their diets. If the other one had some, technology that they had access to that the other person didn't, that made them stronger, I don't understand from a strict evolution view that he holds how any of this could be wrong. To be fair, in some neighborhoods, getting shot might be a part of the game in pickup basketball. That's true. That's true.
Any benefit to anything, or like, is there a benefit to AI? Is AI going to try to become conscious through using humans as their cattle? Is there something that's going to benefit at the end of this, even if it's not humans?
Like all technologies, it comes with a benefit, but it also it replaces so many things that you have to question whether you would have wanted it at all. GPS, for example. I think that GPS is a good model. And by the way, AI is not a new thing. There was a march that was continuous from Google just having a search engine. What is that? Google was basically recording human culture and saying, I can guide you better in the little path. Oh, you want that exact thing? I can find it for you. So already Google was absorbing human knowledge and informatizing it and computerizing it. So we have a natural movement where AI is at the point it is. There are massive gains. I love AI. I interact with AI every day. I do math.
Tony, shout out to Tony.
With it. It's super advanced. It allows me to do things that my brain would take maybe 10 years to do. I can do them in 1 hour with AI. Okay. But that means also that it's less useful to have a brain. And that means that for the next 100 years, if you think...
No, that's false. It doesn't mean that it's less useful to have a brain. It means that you're not using your brain for that use. That one use. It doesn't make the brain less useful. It's still useful. It's fully useful. It's as useful as it could possibly be used. So it's not useless. It's not less useful. That's just false.
I mean, if you've looked around, you'll realize people are dumb. People are stupid. It's going to get worse. It's going to get so much more painful for intelligent people. Because just like GPS, what GPS led to is that there are...
Thanks for the raid, John Steele.
There are taxi drivers in New York. We know that they have an enlarged hippocampus. So they have a bigger part of the brain for mapping because they have a sense of every street. And it enlarges that part of their brain. Now, get GPS. Suddenly, you don't even have a conception of the 3D world around you. You don't know the streets. You're following an arrow on a screen. That's all you need to do. So,
for those of you just coming in from John Steele's, this guy is a evolution proponent and a type of eugenicist, but he seems to be torn with the tension of AI and what it entails from his view versus what we should be doing, which he hasn't really spoken about in an like a concise way where we understand his position. He seems to take a very arbitrary position on when to use advanced technology and when to move away from it, but he doesn't have any reason to. He doesn't have any reason to. It's just arbitrary.
So what happens after 1,000 years of GPS? The people who have broken brains, who are unable
Google.
Okay, so we got some unsolicited accent coaching. Google
to conceive of
Google.
the 3D world, make more babies. It's as simple as this. They make more babies because they could get, with GPS, they could get to places they wouldn't have gotten to. They would have had an accident if they didn't have GPS, or they would have gotten lost and didn't get to the bar, didn't reproduce. So,
What? No, what? Excuse me? No, people are reproducing less, dude. Less. What are you talking about? Without the AI, without all of these maps, people are not having sex and making babies. No, what's happening is they're having sex and not reproducing. What's happening is that their so-called evolutionarily determined impulse that's beyond their control, they're failing. They're failing at it. This is what's the problem with reducing everything to sort of this evolutionary determinist view of reality, is that the world actually doesn't show up the way these people talk about it at all. There's a whole other aspect of existing that's non-material, that's experiential, that's spiritual. There's philosophy and metaphysics that we're constantly partaking in, whether we know it or not, in regards to thinking about this stuff, thinking about technology, thinking about the state of modernity right now, where there's an absence of virtue and an absence of obligations. And what we have instead is a reduction to pure wants and desires, which, according to this guy, he's arguing we should be doing. Just follow your desires, that you're evolutionarily determined to follow your desires. And yet the irony is that his concern is about reproduction, and yet there's a correlation between following desires in a modern world and the lowering of reproductive events, a mass reduction in reproductive events. What does that tell you, bucko?
you already have an advantage given. It's not so much an advantage given, it's an advantage.
He's a dumb guy. It's like the accent and the size of his head, maybe, and he uses all these, he's using all these phrases, and maybe maybe he focuses on some level of biology, but his philosophy is so broken, it's so easy to tear up. And, Neil, he's been in this game for long enough to be able to ask a couple of questions. But these people are so afraid. Unfortunately, Neil, he's so afraid. He's in a culture where there's such a taboo around sounding like a presupper, challenging someone's assumptions. That's what a presupper is, by the way. You just challenge one's epistemic or meta-ethical assumptions and ask them to justify it because they said it to you. You didn't ask to. You just said talk. I'm going to respond. That they never push back on this stuff, and it would make him look so stupid if Neil just put on a Jay Dyer mask just for a second, just for 2 seconds, dude. We get it. You don't want to sound like a philo bro. You don't want to sound like an ortho bro. But if you just put on his face for 2 seconds and just like, why should we listen to you, dude? Dude, why isn't it that wrong from your view, though?
There's nothing wrong about there's nothing wrong about any of that stuff from your view. Just do it once, dude.
Taken out of the properly built cognitive structure of the world. So more intelligent people are not better when there's
Neil's
GPS
losing
to
it.
guide
Neil's losing it.
the dumb. More mathematical people are not better when AI is there to give you all of the math answers you need.
I said channel Jay Dyer. He turns neon blue. What gives?
Need and calculators and everything. So every time we adopt a technology,
So stupid we're done here.
we lose capacities forever. And this applies not just to AI, calculators, and GPS. It applies to walls. The minute we add walls and the minute we had fire,
Speaking of walls, there is a body in my wall right now.
and the minute we had swords, all of these things have deprecated ancient beings. So perhaps you would have capacities to survive in cold if we didn't have walls. Certainly some of our ancestors didn't have houses, and probably some of them, certainly within the human strand, within the last 7 million years, there were some human-like ancestors that we have that didn't even have shelter, not even built with palm trees or whatever. So these humans were probably capable of handling cold better than you and I. We lost this capacity. We had to lose it for comfort. We took the comfort, but now we're dependent on walls. And the same thing is about to happen with AI. But the problem is with AI, the dependence will show in our levels of intelligence, and we're all going down. We're going back to chimpanzee level of intelligence, because why would you even be a mathematician or a quantum physicist if even the best mathematician in the world is about to be replaced and superseded by AI?
This actually goes back to an ancient myth of Thoth, or in some versions Hermes, who there's a king who asked the god to give them writing so they can write stuff down. And Thoth is reluctant because he says, if I give you writing, you guys are just going to start forgetting everything. You're just going to write stuff down, and you're going to use writing, and you're going to become dumber. And this is sort of a universal myth of technology, if you think about it, like what you're saying right now.
That's not even true, though. Writing down stuff is good for your brain. If you record it, the double, it's like a doubled behavior, where if you think about something and you write it down, just the act of writing it down over and over again actually kind of loops it back into your brain by writing it. It doesn't leave you. Like this idea, like your brain conceives of something and then you wrote it down and now it's gone because it exited your fingertips onto the pad. No, you can do that. You can take the opposite view. You can do advanced memory recall practice by writing, by just writing. Now, if they talked about the phone where we lose writing, maybe the loss of writing, you could maybe make an argument for the loss of writing, the loss of reading and writing, both reading and writing, input, output. The loss of that, yeah, you could make an argument that like some muscle in our brain is just not being used, and maybe it's like, atrophying, for lack of a better word. But you still have that part of your brain, though. And so you can work on it. But the thing is, this is where it gets into metaethics. You have to have a reason to push against the forces of animal nature. You have to have a philosophy and a worldview to be able to go through and navigate where to push, where to allow, where to move against impulse, where to lean into an impulse. And honestly, neither of these guys have that. It's in our animal behavior, right, JF Gariepy, to do horrible things to people, right? In the name of reproduction, in fact, you could grape. Hey, dude, that's just reproducing. The consent, why would the consent matter at all? Why would the consent matter from a pure evolutionary view? Why would consent matter? It wouldn't. You'd be reproducing. You'd be multiplying your seed and your information. That's what you're doing. No problem. Taking out adjacent societies. dude, those resources are yours if you can get them. If you can take them, take them. That's evolution. They don't have any deontology. None of these guys. That's probably why Neil really doesn't want to push back or challenge him, because he has nothing. There's nothing he has either. So he's going to go back into the myth stuff, because that's like sort of like the channel ethos with him and the other dude is like, oh, there's an old myth. It's like, dude, press him.
Now that's
consent would be a negative. Yeah, it could be a negative.
sort of a fulfillment of that myth, if you think about it.
Yes. It's an interference going back to learning and knowledge. What are these things doing when they make us dependent and they make us lose some abilities? They destroy the signal of maintenance. That's how we term it in biology. So there's this idea in biology of maintenance forces. So there's something happening that makes it so that you never lose your balls. You never lose your testicles. There's something happening that makes it so that there will never be a blockade of your dick with other matter. The two.
What?
The tube that lets the sperm exit must have existed, not just most of the time. It must have existed in every single one of your ancestors.
Thank you for bringing up my argument that I bring up. No, actually, it's not, because if evolution was true, J.F. Gariepy, there must have been a set of circumstances, a state of affairs in biology where you would have to develop such a thing. You weirdo. I think he said I thought he said bowels, but he said balls. He's like, it must have always existed. Yeah. Welcome to the problem with abiogenesis and everything that you guys claim is happening in evolution. It's amazing he can actually say this, and he doesn't think about further the problem of, like, wait a second. If the egg for the chicken needed to exist, but the chicken needed to exist for the egg, then you have this problem for everything. Everything that's essential. Well, the whole body's essential to itself. And he's like, oh, the one thing we need is a tube with sperm. And you're like, I'm sorry, dude. From the evolutionary view, J.F. Gariepy, a process of replicators and proteins had to build accidentally a ball sack and a highway system and the things inside of the ball sack.
So, for example, you have, consider the ducks, for example, with palms. Let's say all of these animals that have skin basically growing between their fingers. That's because it makes them better at swimming.
No, it's not because it makes them better at swimming. It accidentally, from your view, produced skin in between the fingers by the way, the fingers themselves accidentally grew. And it accidentally was incidentally good at swimming. It doesn't exist because of good swimming. It exists and it's incidentally good at swimming.
Now, consider the fact that tissues, therefore, can solder together. They can be welded together. And in life, this happens all the time. It happens when you heal an injury. It happens across generation when an animal doesn't need their limbs, for instance. What happened to the limbs of the snakes? Their ancestors had arms. Their ancestors had legs. They eventually melded into their body because it was just not needed for them. So you have this melding power.
Who determines what's needed? I love your storytelling, but everything you're saying you can't know. You're making it up. How would you know at what point a snake with legs doesn't need its legs? How would you know it didn't need it? What are you talking about? Look, it doesn't need it anymore. What? If a snake had legs, then according to your own theory, which you just contradicted, the duck has webbed feet because it needs them to swim faster. The snake before had legs. The reason that it had legs is because it needed them, but it eventually doesn't need them. It's fantasy world.
This melding power will never block your ability to come inside of a woman. It will never block your sperm. There will never be a melding of the tube that leads to the reproductive act.
That's another great look. We need to zoom in on.
The snakes, their ancestors had arms. Their ancestors had legs. They eventually melded into their body because it was just not needed for them. So you have this melding power. This melding power will never block your ability to come inside of a woman. It will never block your sperm. There will never be a melding.
Neil. Neil's like, how did I find myself in this dark alley? What Uber? I thought I called Uber. Where am I?
Of the tube that leads to the reproductive act, because each of your ancestors had to have it, and if you don't have it, you're the last representative of your line of descent.
Oh.
It's annoying how they insist that nothing was created with intent or purpose, but all the language they use describe Evo in full intent. Yeah, and they use their brain, which you could just ask them. Did your brain develop for purpose to think?
No, it incidentally created connections that incidentally could be interpreted incidentally by an interpreter that incidentally exists. And then we go forth from there.
So there's these things that will never meld. And why don't they meld? Because there's a force. There's a maintenance force that is constantly working to ensure that the penises are fitting with the vaginas, basically. And that's why you have different sizes of sexual organs across the races. So it's like on a given place on Earth, there's a maintenance force that makes the penises the exact same right size for the vaginas that exist in that local area. So
What are you talking about, dude?
that's just an hilarious thing, because it's like men
What?
and women are different. And
What are you saying, bro? What are you saying? What are you saying? Look at Neil. He's like, I can't believe, they have this saying, never meet your heroes. Neil's like, I think this is one of those times.
animals, they are separate, and yet
This is a bad argument, but a great pickup line. Yeah.
Do you know that there is perfect penis for you? What are you drinking? I'm drinking blood.
same evolutionary force is making sure that one fits into the other.
It's
So
symbiotic
those
evolution.
exactly.
Except evolution has to state that there is a time where those two things weren't developed. Hence the 1/8 penis argument.
Exactly. And yes, symbiosis is another example. You just evolve to be in a relationship with basically everything that's alive around you. You evolve to farm chickens, you evolve for agriculture, you start learning how to manipulate other life forms to your benefit. So when we start being dependent on the technology,
Sure. Sir, pick up the food on the next window, sir. Sir, the food pickup is in the next window, sir.
we are blurring the maintenance signals because suddenly there's no more force that makes
Yeah, nature can't be a cock block. That's right.
you
Nature cannot create a cock block for me.
need to be surviving cold if you have walls around you. Suddenly there's no more maintenance force that makes you have the need to have a brain and to have 3D capacities of cognition when you have a GPS. And now with AI, suddenly
Neil, what are you looking at, bro?
you basically don't even need to think anything. You could literally dump your entire life.
This isn't a debate. No, this is a recent interview over at Gnostic Informants.
To AI, and it would probably give you roughly good advice on what to do and when. So we don't need a brain anymore. And
That's a performative contradiction.
When you don't need something in life, ask the moles that lost their eyes.
Dude, this is a total problem. He's saying that the thing that we made, it means that we don't have a brain. And yet his own argument in nature is that you need maintenance. Guess what needs maintenance? You sophist lunatic. Everything we build needs maintenance, needs input, needs structure, needs guidance, needs correction, needs filtering. What are you talking about? I think this guy plays a role in hyping AI by selling its capacity, overselling its capacity. There is nothing currently happening in the world of, quote, AI. Nothing. That even remotely points us in the direction that we don't need our brains. Not even close. Only in your crazy fantasy world, dude, is that something that's conceivable. Not even close. AI is kind of a joke, actually. That's what everyone's sort of understanding is that, oh, it's always promising, right? It's the software version of the flying car. Oversold, underdelivered, disappointing slop. Does it produce some fun things? Yeah. Can you make a platformer game by copy and paste? Sure. You don't need your brain? Get out of here, dude. Total. It's just the search engine that gives you back a variety of different ways of the answer. Would you like the answer in video form? Would you like the answer in photo form? Would you like the answer in a speech form? Would you like the answer in a 1950s comedy late night talk show? Google, would you please tell me how snake venom evolved, but in the format of a Johnny Cash song? That's AI for you, man. Not use your brain? Shut up, dude. Shut up.
When you don't need something in life, it goes away.
Really? And Neil's all, yeah, totally, man. Will you sign the book? Would you sign the book?
Just like our tailbones.
Yes, exactly.
Our tailbones? We don't need what we need. Dude, you idiot. We use our tailbones. Apparently, this guy is an evolutionary expert, right? This guy, evolutionary expert simp. The coccyx bone is useful for balance and sitting. It serves a current purpose. The tailbone serves a current purpose. You morons. You guys think we need that AI is a threat to not thinking? Guess what? You're already not thinking. We use our tailbones all the time. Multiple uses for our tailbones. In fact, the use of the tailbone is so distinct. It's so clearly useful that it's useful in multiple ways and useful in a specific way for women. You morons. I hate these people. See, I'm a eugenicist now.
So someone might say, well, when DNA came about, look what the result was. All this complex life led to humans. Why wouldn't something like this eventually lead to something unimaginable that could be the next?
Yeah, I saw the Epstein. He did get money, apparently, from Epstein. What was it? What was it that got him on the map? Then Epstein was like, I need to email that guy. Was it that? Maybe it was the statement, for every vagina that exists, there is a penis that's perfectly sized for it. Regardless of age?
Step in, evolution to maybe this is what it's supposed to be or something. I don't know.
And this is where we have to split between empathy for something else and the pursuit of constant improvement. Because there's this delusion that exists in the left, progressivism, this idea that things can only get better. And there is this delusion at a much larger scale because the left thinks that things got better since 1950, let's say. But you could also make the error that the left does over the 4 billion years and say, well, every time there's been a phenotypic revolution, things got better. The first thing to note is it depends.
There is no phenotypic revolution. It's never been observed. So your entire book is a scam. Okay? You're a liar. You're a sued. Everything you say is dumb. The phenotypic revolution. Sorry. Where is it the case where the universal nature, the anatomy universally of something, turned it into something fundamentally not itself? Because the phenotypical argument is even harder to argue than the genotypical. Like the foundation of evolutionary thought is the changes in the allele frequency, which then they make the assumption because this happens, therefore there's a phenotypical change that's astronomically impossible to understand and yet must happen to the extent there's a deer that turns into a whale in 15 million years. That's phenotype. No evidence of any of it. None.
Are you about creating anything of complexity? Because it's possible that the cities
Thank you for
built
that,
by AI
Devin.
under genetic control of humans, under sterile worker humans, it's possible that they will have some form of beauty to their thing.
It just so happens JF says a ton of the same shit Jeffrey Epstein was talking about. Yeah.
But it's not going to be human beauty. Humans will be recycled as tubes in this.
The universal wolf to a universal dog? No. The universal there would be a canine.
Civilization. We will be their tool. So whatever it is that's beautiful, if we let it be built in AI, it's not going to be us. It's not going to be us, and it's going to be using us as tools. The way we are currently using RNA. So what I insert to this is understand.
Neil's like, wow. There's literally no evidence or any reason to believe what you're saying, but I'm just amazed you're here with me.
Then something could live out there. That thing could be beautiful for itself. But do you want to be a slave forever?
Because I am an island boy.
Because the question is not so much what beauty of an organism are you part of. The question
Come taste the authenticity of Jamaican jerk chicken
is, would you want to be the
with plantains.
sterile worker ant?
Oh, whoops, I lost my accent.
Would you want to be the ant?
Dog is not a universal? What's a dog? I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say dog. Hey, Brian. What's a dog? What's that thing you just wrote? What is that? I don't know. We don't know what you're talking about. What is that thing? What's that first word? What is that you're referring to? Is that a particular? What do you got? What you got there in your language?
Whose entire existence and everything that it can conceive is strictly into how do I bring more food to my queen? She needs to make more.
You're a feminist, dude. This is feminist slop.
How do I please my queen, even though she is currently in my wall?
Or eggs. How do I serve my AI better? Yes, AI is the queen. And within 100 years, you will have, from the very first genetic modification.
This is wild. You know how a lot of people cover it. David Patrick Harry's book, Return to Babylon, transhumanism, generally speaking, the Troons movement, generally speaking, is this movement from theosis to some form of apotheosis to make God a new God in man's image kind of thing, right? Generally speaking, this is the trend, right? I've never seen this before where this person who studies just arbitrarily is looking to bees where there's a queen or whatever, and he's using that analogy, even though you could just keep looking in nature and find different ways that things organize themselves in this, quote, ostensible social structure that you're kind of transposing onto them from a human-centric position. And then, but the thing is, he's purposely choosing the queen scenario for some reason, right? Which is funny because, like, if the AI monster mimics this schema, then there's a sort of divine AI queen egregore, right? Like it's like I don't even know. It's like Beyonce. It's like the Beyonce AI god. But why is he drawn to that schema? It could be any schema. I mean, you keep looking at animals. Like, why choose the bee? Why choose the queen? Why? Well, why that? Why even bees, honestly? Why not something so molecular that's not even something you can isolate individuals in such a unique way? Why not just pure virus? Like, I don't understand. Everything's so arbitrary from this guy. It's like poetry. He's a poet. That's what he is. He's a poet. He's a French poet. He's a modern French poet.
You will have evolutionary pressure that push humans in the direction of AI submissiveness. People will become the flag bearer for their AI, for their recipe. I mean, we're already prepared for this. You just assign a color of theme to a bunch of humans in a literally a closed room. You say, you're the red team, you're the blue team. They're already cognitively prepared. They're going to start yelling at each other at some point and say, they're going to start having chauvinism for these fake teams.
Honestly, it's hard to distinguish when he's talking whether or not he's advocating. So, to be fair to JF Gariepy, it's hard to distinguish whether or not he's crafting a world in the future that is the case, distinct from his position on whether or not that should be the case. To me, it's honestly hard to figure it out. Like I can't tell if he's excited about this or he's saying I'm hitting the alarm bells. You know, I'm trying to circle the wagons, guys. I can't tell.
Teams division. So it's like just an arbitrary flag color, like red or blue, will lead two human groups to become
If you study the banana, the queen banana,
absolutely competitive to the point of hating each other. See it in any basketball match or hockey or whatever, politics, geopolitics, race politics, whatever. So we are already prepared. In my view, in fact, we're pre-evolved for a phenotype.
He's boring. He is boring. He is boring. And this is on 1.25. Let's see if it gets better, sped up.
Scientific revolution. We're particularly viciously prepared for it. You look at how we behaved in the COVID days. We are welcoming. We are technophiles. We have been farmed into a dangerous direction of always like technology. Why? Because technology has always been good. The problem with this is technology will forever be.
What is he saying? He's just saying a bunch of false things. Whether technology is good or bad is given by the intent of the user. The technology is never good or bad. It's just the thing. A hammer could be good, a hammer could be bad. I can use a hammer to build a deck. I could also use a hammer if I'm David Wood. I could use super explosive high-energy devices to power a machine. I can use it for something else. What are you talking about?
Always better, always good, until it kills us. The revolutionary phenotype is the point at which we have to stay, and we have to see it come in advance and say, yes, you know, I've been driving in that direction for 50 kilometers, and it gets more beautiful every time. Every minute that I advance in this direction, life got better. The trees got more beautiful.
Where's Neil? Neil, are you still sleeping or what? Are you in my chat? When do you challenge him on anything, dude? Why are you so gay? You're just lapping it up, dude. No challenge at all. Come on, man. It's killing me, dude. Just, yeah. Will you sign my water bottle? Yep. Nope. Yeah. I have your bobblehead. I don't know if you know this. I have one of you. I have you as a bobblehead on my car. Yup. Totally. Yep.
The landscape is better. The air is better to breathe. But there's a brick wall at the end of the road, and we have to break before we get there.
So you think whether or not we want to talk about AI even being conscious of this is beside the point. The fact that we're dependent on AI to help us with editing our genes and becoming better and becoming resistant to certain diseases. Maybe we can live like to 150 or 200 or something. Maybe we see results. But now we're dependent on this machine. Now we're no longer evolving from nature. We're no longer we're no longer adapting to the world around us.
JF is cool. I like him.
in a way where the strong is surviving and the weak are being weeded out. Now we're dependent on a tool, which is artificial intelligence, that's going to decide all these editing for us. And without this tool, the human civilization will be over with, because we no longer go back out in nature and survive because we're so dependent on this tool.
Exactly. So there's a layer of dependence created, which is why in my book, in chapter 12, I lay out the full scenario of how it happens. And eventually people lose their sexual organs, because eventually you do a swab. You do a swab to have a baby. And those people who still have sexual organs, the problem is sometimes they have natural babies. But natural babies are punished in the future society. They're not well integrated to the birthing colonies of the AI. So what happens to these people? They get evolutionarily punished. And eventually the maintenance pressure that maintains our sexual organ in this world, it actually pushes your sexual organ away from existence.
Based on what?
Because if you can't naturally breed, then you're forced to do the swab, and then you're forced to get the genetic modification. And in the same way we have become dependent on all of the technology before,
why do blind people have eyelids?
we will become dependent on swabs. In fact, at some point you might experience an orgasm at the idea of getting a Q-tips on your lips, on your tongue. Because that will be the event at which you get a baby. That will be the great high of your life. It's the moment the nurse swabs.
This guy's such a retard. By the way, he's arguing for a view of evolution that's just been completely dismissed anyway, which would be Lamarckian. So if you export and outsource your birthing technique and your reproductive technique, you physically lose. You're literally, you lose things. You just lose things. Right? Which is like every paraplegic that I know, that I've seen, who's paralyzed from the neck down, not just like a quadriplegic, not a paraplegic, quadriplegic, neck down, they might have a diminished bone loss and muscle loss, right? That's a muscle, though. That's the muscle itself. But they don't lose their fingers because they don't use their fingers.
So we're talking about a world where you don't even need a womb anymore. You can just this will all be done in some sort of machine somewhere.
The machine step is unnecessary, but it will probably happen based on the developments we're already seeing. In fact, there might be artificial embryos before we get to full genetic modification of humans.
He's a trans.
Now, if you're a deistic or even a theistic determinist, how do you square this away? Like, is this like I'm not asking you.
Fine. No, you should ask him because he is a determinist, bro.
You know, like this is like almost ironic that it's funny in a way to people who believe in some sort of divine order that this is what we're leading into. But I guess someone can say this is Satan.
Neil, what's wrong with you, man? You should ask the guy who's on your stream, who's a determinist, to ask, what do you do? He's like, I'm not going to ask you, though, because, I mean, I have a tramp stamp of you tattooed on my back.
That's one way to look at it. That's one way to square this away with your religious beliefs.
So are you an atheist? I don't know.
I'm not an atheist. I'm not a dogmatic theist either.
Okay.
But I'm not an atheist. I do.
Now, are you aware that someone like me, who's fully physicalist or materialist, as some people call it, are you aware that we can have preferences? And are you aware of the subtle...
Nope, that's a metaphysical claim. Now, Neil can't push back on this because he doesn't have the chops, but you don't grant you a we, bro. And there's something Neil needs to get into his tool belt. From this strict materialist view, like I say in my chat every time when they show up, you guys, you can't say we. You can't say we. Atheist says Jesus is a false god. That statement requires a true God, so you don't have any position.
You can be a moral nihilist and believe that there's no objective morality out there.
What kind of God gets killed by his own creation? No, the person of God, Christ, wasn't killed. The person, when we say killed atheist, we're talking about, you have to critique it from a Christian perspective, which is a separation of the soul from the body. That's death to us. We don't take your approach to death, you filthy Muslim.
Imposed by some authority, but you can still have preferences. Like, I like ice cream, for example.
Yeah, I think the idea that if you don't believe in objective morality, then you are somehow going to go out and murder people and stuff like that's silly. It's insane.
Yeah.
Wait, he didn't say that. What is wrong with you, Neil? You're such a meathead, dude. You're such a meathead. If everything's a material thing, there's no you. This came up with this debate with Jay many years ago. There's no you. There isn't a you. There's no I or you or we, bro. That's a metaphysical claim, not a material claim. It's so frustrating to watch. There's a Kino Casino clip where they speculate JF killed and ate his wife. They play the clips of Jay being manic and claiming to know how human tastes. I've seen some of that. I mean, we might as well look at that instead of this. This is like Ambien replacement.
Yeah, exactly. So those very same preferences are what powers someone like me, and how I can say, no, I don't want the revolutionary phenotype. I don't want a world in which humanity is completely enslaved.
Who cares what you want? If evolution is true, your wants would never supersede or take over the will of nature itself, bro. That would just make you evolutionarily weak, bro. Does he even get any questions, at least, from the audience? What a failure.
Absolutely.
It's so crazy to think about.
Yes.
Trying to think of what else I wanted to ask you about. But this is all fascinating. The book is fascinating. I recommend it. We're almost coming on 2 hours anyway, so.
PPP. Who the hell's PPP? All right, well, that was underwhelming. There's definitely some juicy bits in there with his philosophy, but we already know what he believes. Now the question is, where do I find the Kino Casinos on Rumble or something? I didn't prepare. I was like, all right, this will be interesting and funny enough. Neil wants JP to eat him. JB, I just pulled myself out of a rage spiral. Please don't go into the cannibalism and send me right back into it. Yeah, if you guys look at just that whole scenario, the way you could only speculate, though, of course. But, we all, I think, who should tackle JF Gariepy is Candace Owens. She should start taking, how you can do sponsored streams, David Patrick Harry does them really well. Candace Owens should do sponsored streams where she has to do a deep dive on people. I would nominate JF Gariepy. Okay. So the same week. In fact, I think it was the same day. This weird French eugenicist, his supposed wife, who I think was retarded, was somehow dropped off with a backpack in the woods. Like, that's not weird, okay? And the very same day, according to the official reports, says he was cleaning his house incessantly. Even to the extent of, admittedly, going out and buying new plaster to patch up a wall. That's a bit weird. This is real macabre kind of stuff. You didn't. No, you did. You did fine. No, there were some good bits in there. You know who failed it? Neil failed it. Neil failed everybody on this. Because JF Gariepy, he becomes fairly interesting when you press him on things and he gets a little bit combative. That's where interesting JF Gariepy peeks his head out. That's when it gets interesting. But Neil doesn't know how to push back on anything. He's just like, what is this, dude? What is this? What are we talking about here, dude? Look at the effects on the goal it had today. This guy is so boring. I got 3 out of 10. That's how boring this is. Neil. Thanks a lot, Neil. I'm going to give you a charge back. Neil. Neil just kneeling down to everybody. You little prick. Oh, that's interesting. Tony's going to be streaming soon. Why does everyone hate Ian Carroll? Nice. Nice. What can I say? Maybe it's just a short stream day. We got Andrew streaming today. We got everybody streaming today. Why am I even here? Imagine if you had a chance to stop L. Ron Hubbard and you just smiled and nodded. Yeah, you counter him on anything. Yep. Just counter him on anything. Nope. Nope, not going to do it. Probably not. Kneeling Neil. Okay, Neil. Shut up, Neil. Well, he did say some funny stuff there. Honestly, most of the entertainment was Neil just looking. Just like uncomfortable. Thank you, Gauntlet. Super uncomfortable about everything. Yeah, you should be. He's a real weird dude. Thank you so much, Josiah.
What the hell?
Zodiac Dream Interpretations with Marty Leeds. Oh my gosh. What world are we in? Where are we? Actually, more importantly, how's my video doing? Did you guys see a game called Zomboid? It looks really fun to play. I might actually do it one of these evenings. Hardest part about doing a game stream is, to me, is picking a game. But Zomboid looks really fun. It's like zombie Sims, essentially. And I like I like that it's not good graphics and like first person and all intense like that. Have you seen the AI human NPCs vid on Basecamp? No. Based on Basecamp? Is that a channel? Human NPC on Basecamp. Are humans just single species? Ruh-roh. Oh gosh, I can't possibly listen to these lesbians. It could be fun though, actually. What are these people? Can someone tell me what this is? Does anyone know what this is? What is that?
Was 1986 from 1996, culturally speaking.
Right?
It was two different worlds.
What are these? What are they?
To really grasp how extreme this would have felt, historically speaking. How...
Yeah.
Now I have to return that jacket. That sucks. I literally didn't even wear it yet.
Horrifically long ago.
This is very uncomfortable. This is a weird off day for me. I'm getting mad at everything right now. I'm actually waiting for one of the Ortho Bros debate, an AI researcher claiming that AI consciousness will emerge. Did you see the CEO of Anthropic think? Yeah, it's nonsense. The problem is they're doing metaphysics and they're trying to attribute something immaterial to something material. And, you know, they keep using terms like mind and consciousness or being or personhood, and it never works out. It just requires people who are sort of like not well thought in these categories. They're not like properly categorizing things. So they're just like, yeah, no, yeah. It's very convincing. It really feels like a baby. I can't watch people with those glasses. I just can't do it. I just get so mad. I just
I just get so mad.
New Resident Evil. It looks pretty good.
I just get so mad.
The zombie game looks better though. Zomboid looks like it just looks cool. It looks like a fun thing to play. Isn't the guy on the left based? That can't be a guy. I don't consider that a man. Okay? Now I understand the Troons thing. It's funny to switch up the Troons thing, where usually you get someone who's demanding that you say that they're a man or a woman, but you just refuse. Like, you're doing the Troons philosophy on them, and you're like, no, you're a lady. You're a lady. A steep learning curve? Okay. Okay, I don't want to... You guys don't want to experience a learning curve, that's for sure. That's not fun. Nobody wants to watch that. That's like doing tech background work. Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong's always been fun. I have Project Zomboid installed for years, never got around to playing it. Seems like, yeah, if the learning curve is high and steep, then you're going to have to do some sweat equity. There's also another game called, that's a world level zombie game that looks crazy, called Infected Area or something. World level zombie game. Infection. Something. Infection. Anyone know what it's called? Infection-free zone. That's what it's called. Where it's like a world level game. It looks pretty cool, actually. Looks... You could pick any part of the world, essentially.
It's kind of, once you clear it out, there's really not much else that happens. Maybe the islands over here would be good. But okay, so there's our total buildings, what the terrain is like. I think it may also warn us that there is a lot of population here. You know, like there's huge amounts of medium and high density structure.
You know, I was watching someone play a zombie game yesterday, and I was thinking, can you imagine a zombie movie where there's zombies, everyone's a zombie. So the game is the whole idea isn't that there's regular people anymore. It's just all zombies. And you're like, well, what's the conflict then? But they have all the same like social problems. So there's actually like racist zombies and like ghetto zombies, and they still can't like the purpose is to show that all of the social problems of being a human still transcend, you know. And people think that, like, if we all became zombies, then we'd all be truly unified, and there would be no differences, right? We'd all be zombies. There wouldn't be these racial problems, or, you know, there wouldn't be incompatible cultures. It would transcend it because we're all zombies. So that's, like, the premise is, like, humanity's actually convinced to willfully become zombies. It's kind of like Pluribus. They're like, come on, it's better. We're all one thing. There's no differences or whatever. But they're all falling apart. But they still are like, you know. Play the new game coming out called Vatican III. That can't be real, Extanglia. That's not real. Basecamp is pronatalist, transhumanist, is techno-Puritan. The one I just saw, I can't watch that. I can't even look at them. I can't do it. I feel like those people that I just showed on screen, they have like, you know those old coffee machines that have all the brass tubes? Like that's their coffee machine.
Structure, so there's going to be a big zombie population between 40 and 70. There's a grocery store or a hospital or a school in a certain location, then it'll be here too. So if this happens to be a school, for example, then we can go there and find books, and that's pretty neat. We have some additional things to do with their mood now too, and better ways to reflect that there's low food. Look, this is great. Oh, this is that street. Yeah, this is a very famous street where there's lots of flowers and whatnot. And the base. And the AI now, in this update, is a little bit more keen on going straight for your occupied building. So if you happen to have a building that has...
See, this is like Risk, but like zombie. I think the other one looks more fun to play, actually. This looks a little bit more board gamey. So I've tried that one a few times. It's super difficult. Wait, the one I just showed on the screen? Yeah, that looks a little bit too much. I'm kind of a dum-dum with games. I need to be able to basically immediately pick it up and play it most of the time for most games. I just like, you just pick it up and play. An RTS? See, I wouldn't even know what that means. So, it's clearly not for me.
Did someone say racist zombies?
Yeah, I like it.
Sign me up.
I like it. Maybe I'll animate that. You know, just a little short. Just zombies. Everything's like, you know, it has that like intro. It's like, the year is 2076. The mental virus took over the world. And then everyone's a zombie, and you're like, wait, what? There's not even hope? You're like, well, no, kind of. There is kind of hope. Vatican III, Ultra Pope's Revenge. Stop it. My shoulders are, yeah. Always working on it. Though that noodle video that I made didn't really make my shoulders look too good on that one. So not a lot of good zombie. Yeah, it's funny. There's so many zombie games, so many zombie movies. Everything's zombie. Everything's zombie. What do you guys think's missing? There's got to be a missing element of the zombie games that people have just not thought of. Like one could be a tiny little gameplay detail or something that's missing from the world of zombies that nobody thought of yet. That's usually what I sit around thinking about. Seriously got to play Left 4 Dead 2, best zombie game ever. Could play it with some of the viewers too. Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead 2 gameplay. Let's see what you got. It looks pretty cool.
Holy shit, it's zombies!
Very fast. Okay. It's like turbo fast. Key and Peele did a racist zombie sketch. Really? Oh, well, I'm always 10 years behind them. I've seen it. Did I seen it? Oh, maybe that what came out of my head. I mean, maybe I'm just stealing from black people. Could be. It could be. The musical? I don't know what it is. There's something missing with zombie stuff. Oh, I have it sped up. I was going to say, I don't know if I can handle that. It's intense. Looks pretty good. I mean, it looks okay. The graphics are like, eh. It's kind of like... That's what I was upset about Days. I got so excited to play DayZ or whatever. And I finally got to play it. And it was so barren. Everything was so barren. Like, I didn't like it. It was like objects were so... everything was so boxy and barren. It was like, oh, there's a little thing. Oh, look, a bandana in a shed. And I'm like, where is everything? Dying Light. Yeah, I was looking at Dying Light on Xbox. I just still didn't get it. Games are hard to like really commit to. Most of the time I play games that are in like there's rounds. Like I'll play Battlefield 6 and just get annihilated and then quit. Or I'll play FIFA because it's like you play it and you did your thing and then you're good. It's easy. Left 4 Dead tank fight. Tank fights sound fun. Tank jump scare. Tank run. Tank run. Tanks. Like tank zombies. Oh, a tank is a form of a zombie that's just massive. It looks like Shaquille O'Neal. Project Zomboid. That looks the most fun, honestly. That looks fun. It just looks like, you know, it reminds me of another game that I forgot to start playing. It just kind of never came out on Xbox for some reason after it was promised, called Precinct, which is just like a 80s style cop game that's like sort of that isometric look, top-down view. Very similar. A lot of complex tasks and things. Looked pretty cool. But, anywho. All right. It's one of those dead days. What can I say? I got nothing. I thought Gariepy would be something special. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is 6, not a zombie game. It's cool. Let's see what this guy's talking about. See what this guy's up to. Stream sniping.
I'll have to play something else. That's too good. I need to play something worse in the background for now.
He's all sped up.
I'm going to just play a loop that I made.
Sorry. Except for the Skittles. Yeah, there's always Skittles content. Nice.
I wasn't supposed to show you guys that yet. That's the second time that's popped up because I have it on a hotkey.
Tony's animations are so disturbing. Look at that.
This is not great.
Look at that. What is that, jail? Why'd you animate jail,
I can't
Tony?
even use my letters. I can't even use my letters anymore.
Tony,
this is going to mess me up, dude.
Why'd you animate a camp? Hey, why'd you animate a death camp for white people?
All right.
Look, they even have numbers on their arms.
Fine, I'll just open a song.
Oh, I have to draw. I have to do something productive. All right, you guys are going to Tony's. I'm going to send you... Tony's looks like a weird stream today, so that's what I'm sending you to. All right? I'm going to eat lunch, have another coffee, hang out with my family, draw something maybe, make something, rest my brain. Maybe download that game. I don't know. We'll see. Anywho, I think that's it. That's all you get today. That's all you guys get today. What can I say? Just one of them days. I'm going to go make noodles. I'm going to go make handmade noodles. Screw this streaming stuff. I don't need any of this. I'm going to start a cooking channel. Screw you guys. White man makes Asian stuff. No one wants to see the person who's authentic to the culture making the stuff. They want to see a white man making it. So, if that's what I have to do, I'll do it. I don't care. Whatever. I'm not going to sit here and play music and talk about philosophy if I can make noodles. Who cares? I don't care. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. All right. You guys don't even get an outro today.